All right, so YouTube is up. All right, and Facebook is up too high. I'm early, so I figure it's been a minute since I've had everything up, so make sure it all worked before I was late, like I normally am late. So, all right, we look good. I think good enough as it is. The more I mess with it, the worse it gets to me. So I'm sure I'm not alone on that. Okay. All right, so I think 2 weeks ago it was that I talked about trying to get more back to normal, and then chaos again, right? So I think what I normally say about how you can pick up any day and start again, right? You don't have to wait for January, you don't have to wait for a Monday, you don't have to, wait for whatever. Any day you can pick up and start again. And 2 days later it might get all screwed up again. And then you pick up again the next day or next week or whatever it happens to be, whenever things kind of settle down. I'm still waiting for things to settle down a little. But here we are. Between the puppy and the other chaos, I have my washing machine going too, which I didn't think about before I did this. But anyway, hopefully that won't be a distraction. Yeah, I don't know. That's really all I got. And since I broke my watch, I don't know what time it is even, and I'm still early. What do you know? So my plan for today is to just kind of basically to run through a fairly basic, simple practice. Nothing crazy. Again, just to sort of reset, get back in touch with the foundations of everything. So start because it's been so long, right? Start like a beginner. And I've said before about having a beginner mindset. So every practice, whether you practice every morning or once a week, or you haven't been on the mat in 6 months, or you've never practiced yoga before, come in with a beginner mindset, right? Set your feet, set your hips, set your shoulders, set your arms, set your head. Every time start like this was your first time doing the pose. A lot of times we know Warrior Two. I can just get into Warrior Two, right? But then you forget all the good stuff, right? So that's just kind of what I mean. Set it up like it was your first time doing it, and make sure everything is exactly as it should be for you, right? We all have our little tweaks that we have to do, and that just makes the practice fresh. It keeps it fresh, regardless of whether you've done 7 million Warrior Twos, right? If you start off like that, it just changes it. It makes it makes it better for me anyway. So let's go ahead and come on over to the mat. We are going to start standing up. So we want to get in touch with our feet because, again, this is our beginner mentality, right? So find your feet. Well, that sounds stupid. Stand on our feet all day long. Well, maybe you do. Feet belong underneath the hip bones, or ankles really belong up underneath your hip bones, right? Not too wide, not too narrow, right in the middle. And then go ahead and pick up your toes and feel the ball mounds of your feet, right? So kind of lean forward a little bit, not into your toes, into the ball mounds, and roll from the inside of that big toe to the outside of the pinky toe. And see how much work your legs have to do to make that happen, right? So find the middle of the ball mound and then begin to lean back just enough to even the weight between the ball mound and the heel. Release your toes. relax those. But keep that idea in the ball mound and the heel of your feet. So then imagine lifting your kneecaps and tucking your tailbone under. That'll fire up your legs, right? Lifting your pelvic floor, pull the lower belly in and up. Stand taller through your sides. You just gained a couple inches there, right? Try and relax your shoulders. Feel a nice stretch in the sides of your neck here, hopefully, right? Think extending out the crown of your head. So as much as your feet are pressing down, lift up through the crown of your head. And you can close your eyes if you'd like. You can turn your palms forward if that helps rotate your shoulders back a little bit. Right? That's the anatomical position. Right? And just take a moment. Stand here like you've never stood here before. Because we do it without thinking so frequently that this feels really weird or really different. And then keep all of that as you begin to observe what your breath is doing. And sometimes we get so focused on doing something with the body that we forget about how we're breathing. So think about your breathing. Notice if you tend to breathe through your mouth, or do you mostly breathe through your nose? Unless your nose is stuffy, of course. Allow those breaths to begin to deepen. And focus as much on the exhales as you do on your inhales. And just bringing that awareness to it a lot of times kind of evens it out. So we want to deepen the breath, keep it nice and even and smooth. That's pretty easy here doing nothing, right? So let's make it harder. Keep what you have set. With the next inhale, take the arms, stretch them up. Reach away from the body as much as you can. Next, bring them back down again. Try to keep the shoulders in a neutral position, neutral-ish position. We'll do that again, inhaling up. Exhaling back down. Does that change what's going on in your feet at all? One more time like that. Let's inhale back up again. When you get to the top, interlace the fingers. You can rotate the palms or just take your index finger toward the ceiling. Exhale, tip yourself over to the left. Inhale, come back up to the top. And exhale over to the right. So side to side with your breath. And as you tip, what's going on in your feet? Here. Trying to keep everything else that we haven't said. Maybe the stretch deepens as you move, and maybe you're just super focused on those foundations. We're going to go one more time on each side. When you're back to center, exhale, releasing the arms. Let's bring the hands to the thighs. Keep the belly in, the legs engaged. Think about the weight in your feet. And nice and easy here, hinge forward. And maybe, probably, the body weight wants to shift back to compensate. Try and stay centered. Sometimes the body weight starts to shift forward because your upper body is forward. Find your middle. Shoulders are back. You can lean on the legs as much as you need to lean. And then gently here, see if you can take that fold a little deeper. Again, the hands can totally stay up on the thighs, supporting.
They can start moving down towards your shins or the floor. Make sure the back does not round, though. It's not about rounding your back, it's about hinging at the hip. So just gently making your way into that deeper fold, whatever that looks like for you. You can wiggle and walk in place and all that fancy stuff here. But as you're settling in, find those four corners of the feet again. Easy to forget about your feet when those hamstrings are stretching so crazy. From here, we're going to take a nice big step back with the right foot and come into a lunge. So let yourself wiggle around, and maybe your lunge starts a little shorter before you can really stretch that leg back there, or maybe the knee has to be a little bit bent. Just kind of play with it. Work yourself in, wiggle around a little. And you can always drop the knee when you're in a lunge. Make it a little easier, maybe, more accessible. But then find a center. So we want to extend the right leg as straight as it'll go, unless, of course, you want your knee on the mat. And then imagine pulling your feet toward each other, or your left foot and your right knee toward each other to square out the hips. If you did drop the back knee, lift it and step back into the fold. We're going to do the same thing on the second side, so step the left foot way back. Again, drop the knee if you need it. Otherwise, we're just kind of wiggling our way into whatever the lunge is going to look like this early in class. And then find your center again. So imagine dragging the legs toward each other, squaring the hips, keeping the shoulders back, keeping this knee over the ankle. The left leg as straight as it can be. And oh yes, are you breathing? Let's go ahead and step forward. If you haven't already, go ahead and take your hands to the floor, and we're going to step our feet back, just coming into a simple all fours position. Think about your hands like we did our feet. Shoulder width apart, the bridge mound here, right? And then the heel of the hands have even weight. Inhale and take the belly toward the mat. Exhale, round the spine toward the ceiling. We're going to flow like that, in and out. Let's go once more in each direction. And then find the middle again. From here, taking the right hand, palm face up. We're going to weave it between the left hand and knee here, bringing the elbow down to the middle of the mat. If that's all good and you got more, go ahead and continue to stretch that arm over to the left and maybe bring your shoulder down to the middle of your mat. So we want to rest the head on the floor, not lean on the head. So if you feel like you're leaning too far forward or too far back, find your middle. Right? The weight should again be on your shoulder, not on your head. So this can be very simple. You can stay exactly here. The body weight likes to lean a little bit, so make sure you stay centered on your knees as much as you can. And then you can deepen the twist a little bit by pressing into this left hand, elbow up toward the ceiling, press into the entire right arm. Feel it. There you go. And you can absolutely stay here. You can add the fancy stuff if you'd like, lifting the left arm. The idea is to have the left hand over the left shoulder, over the right shoulder. So, you know, maybe you need the hand, maybe you don't so much, but just working into it. And if you want to add a little bit of balance, we step the left foot back and then lift the toes. Maybe. So maybe that's for you and maybe not today. And maybe not on this side, right? One side could be different than the other. So we're gonna release this side. And then come back to center. See what happens on the second side. So same idea though, taking the left hand, weave it under. The elbow can hit the middle, and maybe that's enough. Or the shoulder. And again, we're trying to center that shoulder so then we can stack the shoulders, lifting the hand and all that fancy stuff, right? That's the general direction. It may or may not look anything like that. So you deepen it if you want by pressing into the floor. And then you can add your balance if you want to add the balance piece, lifting the right toes. So you decide. How's your body feeling? Are you able to breathe? If you find you're not breathing in a pose, something went wrong. We'll take just a couple more breaths on this side. And then we're going to make our way back up and into that all fours position. So instead of being in all fours, then we're going to move into a kneeling plank. So knees back or hands forward, whatever gets you there. Keeping the spine neutral, belly pulled in, so the hips are in that same nice long line. You can stay on the knees or lift the knees away from the floor. So moving into a plank position, nothing fancy, extend through the heels. Imagine, would you stand up like you are in your plank? Right? If they're all saggy or if the legs really aren't working, you probably wouldn't stand like that, right? From plank, lift the knees if you need to, and then lift your hips, moving toward down dog. So allow yourself to wiggle a little bit here. Shift. Think about the hands. Nice and even into the mat. Pressing the chest back so the head hangs between the arms. And then pressing the heels toward the floor, whether they touch or not. And again, we don't want to walk the feet in. We want to keep it so that you can move from plank into down dog without all the shifting and wiggling. So from our down dog here, let's go ahead and shift back into plank. Drop to the knees if you'd like, of course. We're going to drop down to the belly. So keep those elbows tight and lower down to the ground. Ideally, everything touches the floor together, but sometimes, sometimes it doesn't end up like that. So hands next to the side ribs here. We want to hug the elbows in to feel the shoulders draw back. Keep the toenails on the floor. And inhale, roll your shoulders up by your ears, together on your back, down towards your hip bones, and then exhale to release it back down again. Inhale as you roll up. Exhale back down. Take a couple more flows like that. Working those shoulders. And then just release. We're going to keep that idea and we're going to work a little deeper into it and hold a little longer. So hands next to the side ribs, elbows hugging in. Roll into the shoulders, curling the chest away from the floor. So here you could be no hands, right? Keeping the shoulders back. Keep that idea and now pull like you're going to pull your belly button between your hands. Hello, triceps. Keep looking forward. Try not to look up so much. And then not only pull, but maybe add a little bit of a push to straighten the elbows some, and you can come up a little higher. Keep the neck neutral, take another big breath, and then let's release it. So keeping those elbows hugged in, Press into the knees, lift everything up off the floor together, back into our plank or kneeling plank, and then gently back into a child's pose. So you can start back from our down dog like we did. We're essentially going to do the same thing. So either down dog into plank or child's pose into kneeling plank. Simpler. Elbows tight to the sides as you lower to the belly. Inhale, roll into the shoulders. That little pull, maybe a push, and then back into your child's pose or down dog. One more time like that. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale down. Inhale into cobra. Exhale back to down dog or child's pose. If you're in child's pose, lift to down dog. Inhaling, step the feet forward, back inward, standing fold. We're going to bring the hands back up to the thighs, lift the upper body parallel to the floor, kind of like where we started. And then lean as much as you need to lean here as we bend the knees, into a chair. So lean if you have to lean, of course. Hands to center, hands can extend up alongside or arms can extend up alongside the ears. Take another big breath. And then we'll inhale, stretch to the ceiling. And exhale, release the arms. So let's go ahead and take a big step back with the left foot. And wide enough that you feel challenged, but nothing insane. Right? Keep your toes pointing forward. Feel the four corners of the feet like we talked about. So always checking in with your foundation. Hands are going to start on the hips here, elbows back. Use your belly. You can definitely support your hands on the thighs if you need to. We're going to hinge back over into that half fold again. And then just take a second. Again, if you need to support. Leave your hands where they are and allow yourself to move into wherever the full fold is. Keeping the elbows out so the shoulders stay back. Let's release the hands to the mat. If you need to bend your knees, you can certainly bend your knees. Index and middle fingers are going to wrap around the big toes. Stay nice and even on the four corners of the feet though here. So elbows out, legs straight without locking. They need to be bent, they do. And you can gently pull in your toes a little bit to deepen the stretch. Releasing the toes, take the hands to interlace behind the lower back. Pull the shoulders together and stretch the knuckles away. So straight down your back or maybe up toward the ceiling. Little baby bend in the elbows, try not to hyperextend. And just keep the idea of reaching away from the body. We'll release the hands. Take them all the way to the mat, bending the knees if you need to bend the knees. Instead of having your toes point forward, go ahead and turn the toes out to the corners a little bit. And you can adjust as you go. In fact, definitely adjust as you go. With an exhale, bend into the right knee, shifting that direction. Inhale, come on back to the center. And then exhale over to the left. Start to move side to side with your breath. And as you bend, make sure your knee and toes are pointing in the same direction and that your knee is not over your toes. So again, you might have to adjust your feet wider or just turning the toes in or out. I'm still thinking about the four corners of your feet, your breath. We're gonna go one more time on each side. And then find the middle again. Turning the toes forward, bringing the hands back up to the hips or the thighs for support. Come halfway and hold it. Hold in the middle here. With an inhale, gently all the way up. And we'll step back at the top of the mat. You're with me? Hey, Ty. Yeah. All right. We're on YouTube. So let's take a short step back with the left foot. Check out your feet. All 10 toes point forward. Right? Think about the four corners of both feet here, just like we did when we were having the feet together or widening that straddle. And then bending into this right knee, knee over ankle. Just like in our lunge, imagine pulling the legs toward each other. Right? So the hips are nice and square, the chest is square to the top of the mat. We can take the arms and stretch them up. If you'd like, you can interlace behind the lower back and any other variation you'd like. Always adding in the little pieces that are right for you. Remember, if a pose isn't working, skip it. Or if you'd rather be in some else in this position, or another variation of this position, I should say, make this practice yours. From Warrior One, we're going to transition into Warrior Two. So arms parallel to the floor, right arm over right leg, left arm back. These left toes are going to turn out and probably go a little wider because we want to stack the ankle over the knee and we want to see the right big toe. Other than that, the four corners of the feet, just like we've been four corners of the feet, pulling the legs toward each other, just like we've been. Relax the shoulders, keeping the shoulders over the hips so we don't lean forward. From here, take that left hand to the back of the left thigh. Turn the right palm toward the ceiling and reach up. Keep the right shoulder down, but keep the idea of stretching the right arm away. Looking up. See if you can bring your right arm alongside your right ear. Not the shoulder, just the arm. Moving back to Warrior Two. Still nice and centered and even in the feet. Bend the right elbow, rest the forearm on the thigh, and left arm over the ear. So sinking into the hips. Right? Lots of people get very excited about bringing the right hand to the floor here, and that's all good, but that's not really where we're going, right? So lean until you can sink low enough into your hips that the floor is just there. Right? So it's not about reaching for the floor. It just turns up. We're going to release that over into a lunge. And you may need to hop the back foot in or slide the right foot back, however you get there. We're going to take all the weight into the right foot and lift the leg up off the left leg off the floor entirely. So maybe an inch, right? Parallel to the floor, we don't want to go higher than that because we want to keep the hips square. So maybe both hands don't need to be on the floor. You can support on the thigh. Take the arms back alongside the hips, stretch them out to the sides or forward.
You decide. Take one more big breath here in your warrior three. And then release it all over into a fold. Let yourself hang for a second. Maybe shift through your hips. Grab opposite elbow. Let your head hang. If they're not already, go ahead and bend into the knees. We're gonna roll up through the spine. Come back to standing. And then we're gonna do our second side. So that shorter step back to begin with the right foot. So all 10 toes can point forward, and you can have 4 corners of both feet on the floor. Bending into the left knee, adjust your feet if you need. Drag the legs toward each other so you're square to the top. And then add the arms wherever you choose to add your arms. From warrior one into warrior two. You can make adjustments with your feet. Watch this left knee. Thinking about your foundation. And then adding this right hand to the right thigh, left palm toward the ceiling, take it up. And then sink that left shoulder back down. The legs are still doing the same work. And we'll come back into warrior two. Bending the left arm, rested on the thigh, bring the right arm over the ear. See about sinking into those hips. Is the floor there? If it's not, don't worry about it. Then over into a lunge. Make the adjustments you need so you can hop that right foot in and lift it up off the floor. Finding warrior three, whatever that looks like. And then go ahead and release it back into the fold. Letting yourself hang. Again, that little bend in the knees, you can shift. Wiggle. Hang like a rag doll. And instead of rolling up, go ahead and drop down into an all fours position and sit back into child's pose. Nice big breaths. From here, we're going to shift forward, come into our kneeling plank. Keeping the belly in, supporting your back. We're going to take the right foot over to the right side of the mat. Keep that knee on the floor. Opening the body to the left. So your right hand, right knee, and left toes are all on the same plane. 4 corners of the right hand, extra important now. Extra.
You can simply take the left arm, stretch it up. You can lift the left leg. You can get a little quad stretch here by grabbing your left foot, a little back bend by kicking the foot into the hand, all kinds of fancy stuff. You can take a full side plank if that's you. One more breath wherever you are. Gently releasing, making your way back into kneeling plank. And then we're going to do the same thing on the second side. So the left foot out to the left. Open the body to the right. And again here, whatever you feel like adding in, maybe try something. If it's not what your body needs right now, try something else. One more breath. And release what you got over here. So back to our kneeling plank. Gently back into a child's pose. From child's pose, slide forward out onto the belly. We're going to work with locusts to start. So keeping the toenails on the floor, imagine tucking your tailbone even more toward the floor. So in your mind, anyway, keep the idea that the pelvis is the foundation in locust. It's not going to be right this second, but keep that in your brain. Take the arms down the sides. You can just leave them down by your sides. You can interlace them behind your back if that's your thing. We want to do what we did with our shoulders in cobra. So roll them up by your ears together on your back and down toward your hip bones and your chest and curl away from the floor, right? Stretch the knuckles back toward the heels and maybe get a bigger lift. If you rise and fall with your breath, let that happen. Staying grounded in the pelvis and the feet for now. Take one more breath. And then release back down. Making a little pillow for your head. Put your chin or your forehead on your little pillow. And the upper body's going to stay down, but we're going to work with the lower body then. So the same idea though, tucking the tailbone toward the heels will keep your lower back long and happy. Spread your toes and imagine extending your big toe toward the wall behind you, firing up the hamstrings. Use your hamstrings to lift your legs. Try not to just squeeze your butt. It's going to happen. Try to use your hamstrings at least as much. Keeping the legs straight, so don't worry about high. And then release. Let's put it together. So arms down by the sides, interlace behind the back if that's you. So here, think the foundation. All it is your pelvis, and your brain anyway. So keep the tailbone tucked, roll into those shoulders, curling the chest, extend through the big toes, and lift the legs. Let's release it. Make the little pillow again. Turn your toes toward each other, rest a cheek on your pillow, and just kind of shake your back out. Right? Rock side to side on your hips here. The idea is to use all the muscles nice and even. But the lower back and the glutes like to do everything. So shake them out, do what you can. Finding that middle again. You can either do locust again if you really love that, Or give it a go. This time, bend the knees. Okay? You're gonna reach back and find your feet. So if you can only do one at a time, you can only do one at a time. And it is easier to let the knees get really wide and grab your feet. Try to bring them into that neutral position again. You can flex your feet and give your hands a little extra to hold on to. But then essentially the same idea is with your locusts. Tuck your tailbone, curl your chest. Here, you can kick your feet away and get a lift. You can lift your thighs or not. And release what you got. Come back into that pillow place, turn your toes in, and rock your back again. So let's bring the hands next to the side ribs. Keep the elbows in, press into the knees, lift everything up off the floor together, and nice and easy then back to a child's pose. Bring the hands in and sit up on your heels. All right, let's give the shoulders a little love. Taking the right arm out like the stop guy, right? A little right angle there. Bring the elbow in front. Still have that 90-degree bend in the elbow. We're gonna take the left arm underneath, weave it between the face and the right hand, and catch your fingers. If there is no way this is happening, simply grab your opposite shoulder. And then think about stacking your elbows. So they don't exactly stack, but you get the idea. So try and relax your shoulders and maybe lift your elbows higher. If you have your hands closer to your face or further from your face, it changes the sensation. So just kind of play with that. And then let's release it. Roll into the shoulders a little bit. And we'll take the second side. So that left arm out, bending at the elbow, bring it in front. Right arm under, between the fingers together, grab your opposite shoulder if that's as good as it gets, of course, right? Stacking the elbows, relaxing the shoulders, lifting the elbows, changing the hands, all of the little nuances that make it your practice. And then releasing. Roll around into the shoulders a little bit, and we will take the legs out front. So finding a seat. The legs stretch out nice and long. That should feel good, wiggling around. And then inner thigh rotation so that you're upright on the pelvis. Flex the feet, reach the arms, and let's hinge forward into a seated fold. Keeping the spine long, so the elbows out, the shoulders back. And normally I say don't worry about touching your toes, but this time we want to grab the right foot. So if you need to bend the right knee to grab your foot, certainly bend the knee. Hang on to it, right? Wrap your fingers around it. Here, you can have the leg straight or bent, doesn't really matter. And then just sit up, lifting that right leg. So, I mean, ideally the leg is straight, but it doesn't have to be. Try not to lock your knee. Keep your shoulders down and back as much as you can and lift your chest so you sit really tall. And then think about lifting your toes as high as they will go. Take your left hand to the outside of the right foot. Keep the right foot pointing forward. We don't want to lean over to the left, right? So keep it pointing forward. Release your right hand and reach behind you, wherever behind you is. And you can look over the right hand and give yourself a little twist on top of it. Right? If you'd like a little bit of resistance, push your foot into your left hand and pull back with your hand. Feel that kind of deepen your twist and change it up a little. Again, we don't want the leg moving all over the place, but that little bit of isometrics, I guess, will do the trick. Let's release it. Release your right foot back down. And then switch. So grab your left foot, straight or bent, doesn't matter. And then once you got it, lean back, lifting the toes. Again, remember to keep your shoulders down and back, your chest open and lifted. You can bend your elbows out, you can lift your toes higher. Any of the little tweaks that you need over here. Release the left hand and grab the foot. The right arm reaches back behind. Again, if you want to make it a little different, push the foot into the hand and the hand back into the foot. One more breath. And then release it. Coming back to center, releasing the left foot. And then we'll roll back up, bringing the soles of the feet together. So find a place on your mat where you'll be able to roll back. So we will in just a second here. Soles of the feet together, hug the ankles. Those are ankles. In toward the groin, elbows in toward the inner hips here. Right? So we're sitting up nice and tall. You can help your hips kind of release toward the floor a little bit with your elbows, and then hinging forward, think belly button to heel. Keep hanging on, sitting up, and then lean back enough to balance, lifting your feet away from the floor. It doesn't have to be high. Keeping the chest lifted, the shoulders down and back. Try not to release your feet to the floor, but take your index and middle fingers and wrap them around your big toes. Extend the right leg. And then bring it back. Extend the left. And bring it back. And then extend them both. Keep the chest lifted. Try to use your abs at least as much as your arms here, otherwise it feels like you're going to pull your toes off. And then bring it back. Hang on to your ankles again. And instead of lifting the chest, go ahead and C-curve through your spine and roll on down. The soles of the feet are going to stay together, but we're going to take them to the floor and just release. Release your belly, the hips, your back. Let's bring the knees back together. Hug those knees into the chest. And then let yourself rock up and down your spine, side to side. Knees close or far away.
So keep the knees in toward the chest, draw them in really tight, and then bring your shins vertical. So it looks like your feet are stepping on the ceiling there. You can use the hands on the back of the thighs to just gently pull them closer to your chest if that's you, or you can reach up and grab for your feet. And pulling on your feet to bring your knees toward your armpits. Well, really toward the floor next to your armpits, but you know, right? So wiggle around a little bit into it. Ooh, there's a dog, that good one. So then find the middle again. Pull down on your feet evenly, and now imagine pushing back up with your legs. So a little bit of push and pull. It aligns the spine a little bit better and just changes the stretch for you. Releasing that, gently take your feet back to the floor. We're going to open the arms out into a T position. And at this point, you can take any variation you'd like. So we're going to start with the legs over to the right. If you just want to let them fall, let them fall. If you want to shift your hips first or take your legs straight or cross your legs, whatever makes you happy. And then just work your twist. You can make it super restful and just let gravity do its thing. Or you can really pull and stretch, right, and make it a little deeper. So just kind of play what your body wants. We're going to take just a few more breaths. And then let's bring it back to the center. And take the second side. So start where you started on the other side, but then if you need something different, you can adjust. We want to work towards symmetry, but it's not always exactly what the body needs that moment. Taking just a few more breaths over on this side. And then making your way back to center again. Hug the knees back in. Give yourself that little rock. And then give them a squeeze. Bring them in as tight as you can. Pull your forehead to your knees. Release it out into a full body stretch. And then releasing the stretch, find Shavasana, the best part. All right, so whether you're fully extended, maybe you want to bolster behind your knees, maybe you want to take legs up the wall, whatever your body needs from you right now, so that it can really rest. Feeling aligned and comfortable against the mat. And then just let it all go. Release the muscles, your breath, and release any random thought that wanders in. Allow your mind to stay present. Giving yourself just a few minutes to really rest.
Allow your breath to gently deepen. Starting small, allow the body to begin to move and stretch. When you're ready, allow the feet to come flat to the floor. And slowly make your way back up to a seated position. Sitting well. Bring the palms to touch. Namaste. So thanks for practicing with me. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have questions or comments or a pose that you can't figure out how to modify for yourself or suggestions on poses to throw in, I am open to answering questions and taking feedback. So have a great weekend, and hopefully, for the universal laugh, we'll do this again next week. See you guys. Thanks.